Hello everybody, I am the Linkzilla, and welcome back to Ratchet and Clank. When we last left off, we landed on this planet, which is basically being torn apart by war. We got halfway through this planet, only to basically realize that we need some magnet grav boots in order to enter the facility over there, so that we can use the turrets to take out those Blarg ships that are attacking. And unfortunately, we just don't have them right now. But we did manage to get 2 info bots for new planets that we can visit, and we can basically go check them out. So, all aboard! I like how they slightly changed up the animation. The fact that this ship is so big that Clank has to use his helicopter pad in order to get up there. Let's see, we can't go to Orxon just yet. Let's go to the Blarg Depot on Gaspar. I kind of just wish that Ratchet's facial animations kind of reflected the fact that he basically, that he's basically still angry at Clank. Explore the walled city. But I did find both the gold bolts, so let's see. Yep, 2 of 2, and our only mission is to find the pilot's helmet, so let's blast off. I hope that you guys, don't mind if the commentary on this one is a bit spaced out, because I just saw something that was absolutely mind-blowing. You guys know that I'm a huge fan of Godzilla. One of my favorite games on the PlayStation 2 is Godzilla Save the Earth, and I really need to get back to doing a playthrough of that game, because I've only done one campaign with Godzilla 2000 for the release of Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I did that back in 2019, so... Anyway, what I just saw is that somebody on YouTube, that channel that basically made all those videos about comparing the different types of Godzilla and their atomic breath, yeah, that guy, he basically remade the intro of Godzilla Save the Earth entirely with resources on his computer. And he basically put it all together using Unreal Engine. And the lengths that he went to was incredible, because basically I'm looking at him with all the resources that he had to basically get this project started, and I'm thinking, if it were me making this, that would have been good enough for me. That would have been a fantastic starting point, but he claims that they weren't suit accurate, so he wanted to update them. And he updated them himself. He literally took the model of Godzilla 2000 that he had, and he hand sculpted all of the different scales across Godzilla's body. And if you know anything about the Godzilla 2000 design, you know that is a lot of detail to get through. So the fact that this guy actually went out of his way to do it, it was incredible. Granted, the final product does have some things I could comment about, but I don't want to. The Walloper, huh? It's a new weapon. Wait. And it doesn't come with any ammo.
Hi there, Fuzzball.
Fight, fight, fight. Hey, you've got the power glove. This will be a great weapon to use while I'm basically kind of restocking my ammo supply. It seemed that we had reached an impasse there. Anyway, hopefully that's the last of those little mousers. Nope. I left a few stragglers. best kind of key. The sound those guys make is so funny. Oh yeah, I like this thing. Safety first. Oh, I didn't like that. It looked like the game was about to freeze there. Ah, get out of the lava! Oh no! Alright, buddy, you wanna play games? Okay, so I'm convinced that that might actually be the path, the beaten path that I need to follow. Seriously, I thought I destroyed the machine that was vomiting you guys up. Where the heck are you all coming from? Yep, this will be my return trip. Soccer poppers, more fun than a pillow fight. No turret. You know, I find it strange. I basically got this whole thing, I got basically the visuals on the game and my recording all cleaned up, and it suddenly has completely changed my attitude about playing this game. Because, like, throughout this entire thing, I've actually been kind of apprehensive. Basically thinking, what if it doesn't come out looking good? Like, what am I wasting my time for? But I've got it working good, and now I basically know what to do for future playthroughs on my channel when it comes to PlayStation 2. I can tweak and adjust the brightness and contrast, which means that future games will come out looking great. So thank you, Ratchet and Clank. You were the sacrificial lamb on which I experimented with. You know, I kind of want to see Linkara do a playthrough of this game, just so that he could get to this portion of the game, get this weapon, and basically refer to it as the I am a man glove. I am a man! Oh, come on. Give me a checkpoint. Oh. The ironic thing is that I actually don't really care for Linkara all that much. I just basically, like, remember some of his old memes that he used in the top the fourth wall, and I thought that they'd be funny, you know? Okay, I gotta take these guys out with some kind of ranged weapon. Ooh. Well, go get them, boys. Ah, way to clear a room. And the thing about it is that I don't really have anything against Linkara's content that he posts. Like, I actually do kind of enjoy some of his shows, like History of Power Rangers, and occasionally I do partake in watching Atop the Fourth Wall. I basically had to stop for a while, though. The problem is that even though I basically like the content that he creates, is that a little bit like Doug Walker, I really can't stand him as a person. And that's ironic, because basically I've heard that in recent years Doug Walker has sort of mellowed out. He's started to keep his ego in check a little bit more, and tried to distance his personal self from the Nostalgia Critic character so that people will, I don't know, stop hating him. But the simple fact, but with Linkara, it's just like, it feels like he takes himself a little bit too seriously. Like, he actually fully 100%, like, the Linkara character is how he is in real life, a little bit. But the reason that I had to stop watching him is because Linkara actually taught me a very important lesson in hypocrisy. Something that I should probably basically make an actual video on. If you guys basically, like, want to know what I'm talking about, I could easily ramble about it here. But, this is the ship that they were testing. Maybe the helmet should be inside. Do you guys really need a ramp to launch a ship? With this technology? What's the point? Ah, there's the helmet.
Now this is cool.
You fell with the pilot's helmet. Yeah, except they were still working on it the last time you guys checked in. Like, you guys only found out about this because they were working on the helmet. So what good is this pilot's helmet going to do? If it's not finished. I mean, maybe it is finished by now, but honestly, what good is it going to do? Is this gonna open up dogfighting missions in space for us to do? Kinda would rather not do that. Well, it looks like we've done everything that we can do on this planet, except find the gold bolts. This is a bad idea. Walloper. A mustache. We are standing at the base of a dormant volcano. So for those of you who are wondering about that comment that I made about Linkara, how he taught me an important lesson about hypocrisy, well, it's a bit of a long story, and I don't exactly know how to begin. I think that basically with a little bit of preferencing is needed. Basically, Linkara, pretty much as you basically would probably know, he's a guy that basically is really big into Star Trek. He basically knows a whole lot of Star Trek lore. He basically, grew up with watching Star Trek. He's got Star Trek costumes. He's basically a Star Trek mega fan. And basically, as to be expected from most mega fans, he was not the biggest fan of the Star Trek Kurtzman trilogy. For those of you who are wondering what that is, those are the modern-day Star Trek movies that basically starred Chris Pine and whatnot. Basically the reboot to the entire Star Trek franchise with the original series continuity the original series continuity basically being rewritten in an alternate timeline. Now the thing about it is that I knew what Star Trek was when I was a kid. I watched it a whole lot. I definitely remember seeing a lot of episodes when I was a kid, but I was not really as into Star Trek as others might be, especially not Linkara. My older brother was definitely more into Star Trek than I was, because I feel like as a kid I didn't really quite understand or appreciate what Star Trek was trying to do, and thought that it was ultimately kind of slow moving. Although I could appreciate how much they could spread a budget. Believe me, that's the one thing that I could definitely appreciate when it comes to that franchise. Okay, so before I was rudely interrupted, I was talking about, like, Linkara basically being a fan of Star Trek, and how I wasn't really a fan of Star Trek growing up, but I definitely knew the characters and I knew a little bit about the lore. The one thing that apart from that, I actually liked the Kurtzman Star Trek trilogy. Now, what's the Kurtzman Star Trek trilogy? Yeah, I basically mentioned that that's the trilogy that stars Chris Pine, that basically rebooted the Star Trek franchise. Now, basically, because Linkara is a fan of the original Star Trek series, much like my older brother, he hated those movies. And, well, the thing about it is that I really like the movies because, well, let's face it, I like the movies for all the reasons that die-hard fans of the franchise hate them. The fact that the movies seem to be dumbed down and made into action movies so that a general audience, which includes me, would actually get invested in the story. So yeah, I admit that part of the reason that I like those movies is because they're a bit more action-driven and a bit more... They have more forward momentum than the original Star Trek series, which I feel was a bit more cerebral rather than, you know, actually being an action story. The original Star Trek series definitely had its action-packed moments, but I would say that basically I like the new Star Trek movies because they feel a bit more exciting. But what's the point of me talking about all this? Well, basically speaking, for years, Linkara has basically been saying that those Star Trek movies are bad because they disrespect the canon and lore of the original franchise, and that people who like them are inherently wrong because they are normies who don't know the franchise that they're talking about. They don't know what real Star Trek is, which is why they like the Kurtzman Star Trek stuff. Now, basically speaking, that might sound like a bit of gatekeeping, but let's see. Holy crap, I'm right by the ship. Finally got that gold bolt. Came out all the way underground. Now, the reason that I basically brought all this up, and the reason that it ties into what Linkara taught me about hypocrisy, was basically because around 2018, Linkara put out a little video where he reviewed the comic adaptation of Star Wars The Force Awakens. And within just a few minutes of that video starting, he basically goes on a rant about people hating on The Last Jedi, and basically told them to shut up. Admittedly, he said that this video was going to be about The Force Awakens and not The Last Jedi, but he would later go on to say that he actually liked The Last Jedi. Basically speaking, he's telling people who hated on The Last Jedi that their opinions are invalid and they don't matter because he liked the movie. And that right there showed me just how hypocritical it was, because Many times before, when Linkara has covered Star Wars material, he has quoted saying, "I'm not a Star Wars guy. I am a Star Trek guy." So basically, Linkara doesn't know and probably doesn't care about the canon of Star Wars as much as other actual Star Wars fans would. Just like how I don't actually know or care all that much about Star Trek, the original series, and its canon and lore. Therefore, if Linkara is basically like taking this hypocritical stance, telling actual fans of Star Wars who know the series better than he does that their opinions are invalid, he has no right to complain about the Star Trek Kurtzman trilogy. But the reason why I'm talking about the hypocrisy is really this. The simple fact is that I might still like the Kurtzman Star Trek movies, because there's just something about them that appeals to me. But I'm able to recognize the fact that what they did, especially in regards to the continuity, that's not good for the legacy of the original Star Trek, and I can understand why fans of the original Star Trek would be put off by that. Just like how the makers of The Last Jedi had absolutely no respect for the lore and history of Star Wars, literally to the point where the guy who directed the movie literally flat out stated how little he cares about the franchise. So yeah, as much as I basically like those Star Trek Kurtzman movies, I can understand where real fans of the franchise come, and basically why it's really got to be important that you know, in this day and age, when something gets rebooted, even if it is liked by the general audience, they're not the ones who are going to have the last say on what this film does. It's the long-running fans that are going to keep this film alive. Because really, when you think about it, the general audience is so fickle. Sure, you've got to redesign a film of an old franchise to be made into a film that's going to appeal to the general audience, but what's that going to get you? A big box office? Possibly. But what about the longevity of the film? Because I've seen a lot of movies that appealed to general audiences over the last decade that basically sort of turned their back on their main fan base. But the problem is, even though those movies do well in the box office, the at-home media of these films doesn't do nearly as well, because the general audience might enjoy watching these movies in theaters, but they're not going to buy these movies when they come out on home media. They're not going to basically stream them. They're not going to basically download digital copies of them. They're not going to basically get them on Blu-ray or DVD. The ones that basically do that are the ones who are devoted to this franchise. These franchises. That's basically where the longevity of these movies is going to come in. Because if you make a movie that appeals to a general audience, but that general audience isn't invested enough to buy the movie when it comes to home media, then you're kind of screwed. Effectively speaking, that's basically money that you're never going to see. And that's basically my TED Talk on Linkara and why I kind of don't necessarily like him as a guy. I like his content and whatnot, but he came off as a major hypocrite basically when it came to The Last Jedi. And we all know basically why he did, because he's on that side of the political aisle, and basically defending The Last Jedi was his way of basically defending the politics surrounding it. But the simple fact is, it really is the same situation. He hates on Kurtzman's Star Trek because it's not true to the original source material. We hate on The Last Jedi because it's not true to the original source material. He knows Star Trek better than us. We know Star Wars better than him. So, whose opinion on what deserves more validation, and who should honestly be, and whose opinion carries less weight? So, that's basically like what I got for that. Okay, so I'm back by the ship, but I've got one more gold bolt to find. I gotta say that volcano was such bullshit. I just really wish that every single time you came close to basically like one of these swing shot sections, the swing shot would automatically activate if you press circle. This looks like an arena. Hey. Where are all these rocks flying in from? Oh, I know, I knew it. Knew it was gonna do that. And there's my prize. Now, can I get a teleporter back to my ship? Ah, transport. Oh. Come back! Come back! Come back! For a second there, I thought it was gonna be like, I can't come back, I don't know how it works. That's like one of the funniest lines in cinema history. I can't come back, I don't know how it works. Well, I'd say that basically because we finished off everything that we could do on this planet, that's a good place to end this episode here. So, let me just put this pilot's helmet on. And let me get back to my ship so I can sign off this episode. So, what we basically accomplished in this episode is that we basically got this pilot's helmet, we destroyed a whole bunch of those ships, we fought through that volcano, and we got our gold bolts, and I basically low-key dissed Linkara. So, but anyways, that is all the time that we have for this video. If you liked it, please leave a comment down in the comment section below, like and share it with your friends. If you want to keep up to date with more Ratchet and Clank coming at you in the future, smash the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later!